Think about how you moved through the world today. You likely made several logical choices, navigated polite conversations at work, and felt in command of your own actions. We live under the assumption that we are rational thinkers, charting a conscious course through life. But consider the moments that defy that logic. Why do you feel a sharp pang of pain when a friend succeeds? Or why does your personality shift the second you step into a large group? Robert Greene argues that we aren't the independent actors we believe ourselves to be. In reality, we spend much of our lives sleepwalking. Beneath our awareness, 18 primitive forces govern our behavior and the behavior of everyone we meet. Gaining control requires us to become investigators of the human psyche. We have to peer behind the social masks people wear to see the actual mechanics of the mind. If we fail to decode these hidden forces, we remain victims. We stay vulnerable to others' manipulations, the irrational pull of group dynamics, and our own patterns of self-sabotage. The first layer of this investigation begins with our daily interactions. We tend to take surface-level politeness at face value, assuming that a person's behavior reflects their true intentions. The law of envy suggests otherwise. Because the brain is wired to compare, envy is a constant, though it is usually hidden. It leaks out through micro-expressions of hostility or poisonous praise, where a compliment is mixed with sarcasm to make you doubt your own abilities. Sometimes it manifests as schadenfreude, a brief, uncontrollable flicker of joy at your pain. Gore Vidal described this hidden hostility as a defining human trait, famously noting that every time a friend succeeds, he died a little. Then there is the law of aggression. While we often associate aggression with physical violence, it more commonly stems from deep-seated insecurity. When people feel helpless or frustrated, they attempt to regain control by overpowering those around them. Sigmund Freud argued that humans are not naturally gentle or friendly. He viewed a powerful desire for aggression as a core part of our endowment. In modern life, this aggression manifests covertly through passive-aggressive strategies. You see it in the blame shifter, who immediately turns a confrontation around until you feel guilty for their mistake, or the insinuating doubt strategy, where a friend makes an offhand remark specifically to lower your self-esteem. The polite facade often masks primitive insecurities. Learning to read these subtle psychological leaks is the first step in social self-defense. The investigation now turns inward. Most of us walk through life with an image of our own limits, talents, and desires that is largely false. Consider the law of grandiosity. We have a natural need to feel important, but social media acts as a virus that inflates this desire. It detaches our self-image from reality, creating the illusion that we can attract millions of followers or succeed without the necessary hard work. Our sense of self is further distorted by the law of gender rigidity. Carl Jung identified the anima, the unconscious feminine part of a man, and the animus, the unconscious masculine part of a woman. To fit into social roles, we repress these traits, but they eventually resurface as projections. We seek out romantic partners who possess the qualities we've hidden in ourselves, leading to repetitive relationship cycles, like the superior man or the devilish romantic. Personal identity is often a fragile illusion. We remain trapped in cycles of self-delusion and romantic sabotage until we integrate these repressed parts. This lack of individual control becomes even more pronounced at the societal level. We possess a social personality, a side of our character that takes over the moment we enter a group. Under the law of conformity, we instinctively imitate others to fit in. Groups quickly establish unwritten rules and social hierarchies, where members adopt roles like the alpha, the intriguer, or the stirrer who causes conflict from the sidelines. We are also victims of generational myopia. We assume our current values are objective truths when they are actually temporary products of the era we were born into. The historian Ibn Khaldun observed that history moves in predictable cycles across 4 generations. It begins with revolutionaries who establish new values, followed by a generation that builds order. The 3rd generation focuses on pragmatic comfort, while the 4th becomes cynical, living in a society that has stagnated. This fourth-generation cynicism eventually creates the friction necessary for a new break with the past, triggering a new wave of revolutionaries to start the cycle again. Society acts as a macro-mask, compelling us to conform to a script that was written long before we arrived. Stripping away these masks provides a map for personal liberation rather than an excuse for cynicism. By identifying these forces, we can begin to consciously redirect them. To counter envy, Friedrich Nietzsche suggested the practice of Mitfreude, or joying with. This involves a deliberate effort to actively feel the joy of another person's success, replacing the instinct to compare with a sense of gratitude. To fight aimlessness, we must develop a high sense of purpose. By creating a ladder of smaller, descending goals, we avoid the trap of false purposes, like the pursuit of cheap pleasure or the emotional release of cults. This purpose builds authentic authority. People follow those who embody specific archetypes, like the deliverer, who provides a clear path through a crisis. Others establish authority as a visionary artist, gaining respect by disregarding established norms and following their own intuition. Channeling primitive energy into a defined purpose allows us to stop reacting blindly. We move from being a victim of our nature to consciously creating our own reality. The final law moves past social dynamics and into our most fundamental biological reality, the law of death denial. We spend our lives avoiding the fact that our time is limited. In 60 years, most of the people currently on Earth will be gone. Meditating on death has a paradoxical effect. When you recognize the insignificance of your ego in the vastness of time, trivial anxieties begin to fade. Embracing a hard deadline on your existence forces you to focus. You stop wasting energy on the social mask and concentrate exclusively on your life's work and real relationships. Peering into the void of mortality offers the necessary friction to stop the sleepwalking state.